Dave Weinberg, Hall of Fame boxing writer. He joins us now on the Sports Bash to give us some perspective and some thoughts on what's next for boxing after what was a good night, Dave. I mean, it wasn't like this epic fight, but it wasn't a black eye. They didn't have some wonky judge or ruling to the fight. It was just a night that people were excited about. Do you think it lived up to the hype?
Yeah, Mike, I think it did. It was a night that boxing definitely needed, like you said. There's been so many controversial endings, questionable judging, referee mistakes, what have you. And the fact that it was a heavyweight fight, which is, a legitimate, so-called big heavyweight fight that hasn't been around for a while. People were really excited about it. Even the casual boxing fans were into it. And I thought that the two guys delivered. I mean, you got to give all the credit to Tyson Fury, but I thought it definitely lived up to what was expected.
One thing we opened the show with today, which was, let's say this was the best fight they could have put on. That it was just an excellent back and forth Rocky II-esque fight where both guys knocked. I mean, the problem I have, and I'm not one of these guys at all, Dave. I'm a boxing fan, and I don't say boxing's dead. The problem is, now what? What's the fight that everybody is looking forward to next? They feel like that there's not something that can constantly get in front of the casual boxing fan to keep them engaged. So I don't know what they can do to keep people from forgetting about the fight 2 weeks from now.
Oh, yeah. I mean, people probably won't remember 2 weeks from now, but there are, I think specifically if you're talking about the heavyweight division, everyone wants to see Tyson Fury fight Anthony Joshua. He holds 3/4 of the world titles, also from Great Britain. So, I mean, that would be a huge fight overseas. I mean, you're talking like 140,000 people maybe that would see the Fury-Joshua fight, maybe Wembley Stadium, something like that. So that's probably the next one on the horizon, although there's a rematch clause that Deontay Wilder can exercise if he chooses to. But, yeah, there aren't any, like, mega fights on the horizon, if that's what you're asking. I mean,
even in another weight class, even in another weight class, you're like, that was great. I loved it so much. I want something different. There's not another card coming up that you're like, well, get ready for these two because they're going to be, throwing blows at each other. And then 3 months from now, it just seems that that's it. What's next? That's the disappointing part about you had this great night, but it almost feels that boxing has turned into horse racing. You got your one night a year, maybe two, maybe three if you got a Triple Crown potential. But other than that, you're just kind of there.
Yeah, that's probably true. I mean, there are good fights out there, but not the kind that would draw the casual fan. And this was one of them. And you're probably right. There probably aren't a whole lot of them on the horizon. I don't know. Maybe there just isn't. There are some superstars out there, but they don't have any suitable competition at the moment. Canelo Alvarez is probably the biggest name out there, and there's really nobody that can hang with him at the moment. So just gonna have to wait and see until another big event comes around. I mean, you're talking about back in the day, when Tyson would fight 4 or 5 times a year, and all those everybody wanted to see him fight. Maybe Tyson Fury can be that guy. Maybe he can be the guy that people will pay to see no matter who he's fighting. He has that personality. He has that ability. So maybe they just need a so-called, superstar, and maybe Tyson could be that guy.
Yeah, it's exactly what I wanted to talk to you about, Dave. Is it feels like I'm a casual boxing fan. I mean, I have some family members that are boxing guys, and that kind of keeps me in the loop. But I'll tune in when it's big enough, and that's just the reality, I think, of where the sport is as a whole. But Fury feels like he can be that guy. I mean, help me out here. When was the last time that you had a heavyweight or really anyone that had the personality to promote a fight and to garner the attention that Fury has been able to garner and back in that guy?
Well, I'd probably argue Floyd Mayweather Jr. probably is.
Sure,
have that.
Sure, of course. But I think outside of him, maybe I should have disclaimed it.
That's okay.
Yeah.
There isn't well, it depends on who you're talking to, really. I mean, like I hate to keep bringing up Canelo, but He's absolutely a super mega star in Mexico.
Yeah.
And there's Mexico is boxing crazy, and he's the guy that they put at the top of the pedestal. As far as the United States, there probably isn't a guy that could really draw the interest like that. And you're right, but Tyson does have that. I was a big Deontay Wilder fan. I guess I still am. I was really. I think it does so much more for the sport when there's an American heavyweight champion. In this country in particular. I was really disappointed in the way he performed on Saturday night. All the credit goes to Tyson Fury, though. But you're right. His personality, his background, his life story, his personal problems, and the way he's bounced back from that. An engaging guy, funny, and can hit like a tank. So, maybe he is the guy that everybody will be drawn to coming forward.
If you were in charge here, right? Like the basic question, what would you do next? You go into the office on Monday, you're coming off this fight where I look at it as a big positive from the sport overall, but it's just a question of, like, Gil said, what's next? But what would you do? Like, what's the problem? What trend do they need to break?
Boy, that's a tough one. That's a good question. Well, first off, if I was in charge, I'd make sure I bring a fight to Boardwalk Hall. That's
I like
pretty
that.
selfish stuff.
Yeah.
But it's been too long. Mike and I have often talked about this. It's been Atlantic City used to be arguably the fight capital of the world. Those days are gone. But I want to see a big fight on Boardwalk Hall. I want to see 14,000 people there, the way they used to come for Arturo Gatti and Sergio Martinez and Kelly Pavlik and Bernard Hopkins and guys like that. Whether there's a big fight out there that could draw. I guess the problem is that there's some of the fighters are tied to certain promoters. Certain promoters don't want to come here. Casinos don't seem to be all in terms of bonding together to make sure that they can bring a big fight like that here. But if I were the king of the world, so to speak, the boxing world, that would be just from a selfish standpoint, that would be tops of my agenda to make sure we can bring a fight back to Atlantic City.
I know we have talked a lot about it. You kind of wrote about it in your Extra Points column, which you can read right now on our website, 973ESPN.com, about, hey, Fury and Wilder 3, why not Boardwalk Hall? That would be a very, very long shot, though, right?
Probably, although I don't think it's as big a long shot as you might think. British boxing fans have been known to they love Atlantic City personally. I've seen them come in droves to the Boardwalk to see guys like Carl Froch and Lennox Lewis, people like Prince Nassim Hamed, and I think Tyson Fury is certainly in that class as well. I don't know that. I don't think a Fury Wilder 3. I don't think that would be beyond the realm of possibility. It would certainly take, like we had talked about, a lot of cooperation amongst the casinos and the CRDA and various entities like that. But Atlantic City has hosted big fights before, and I don't see any reason why they can't do it again.
Yeah, and I know we had talked about earlier, does boxing just not – like if they had the option, Atlantic City are both on the table here, the stadium, the arena is just – is that a problem? Is that something that if they wanted to bring a fight here and said, we want this here at Atlantic City, and Vegas also, they would choose Vegas because of the size of the arena?
That's probably partly true, although I don't think the MGM Grand Garden Arena is that much bigger than Boardwalk Hall, if it is at all. You have the T-Mobile Arena, though, which is bigger. But from what I can gather, it seems like boxing is more concerned with pay-per-view buys than they are necessarily with attendance. It's nice if you have, 14, 15, 16,000 people in the stadium, but I don't know that that's the driving force. I don't know if that's the make it or break it a factor when it comes to putting a big fight together. I think if casinos can see that they bring people here, that, those people will stay on their properties, will gamble in their casinos, will visit their sports books and their restaurants. I think that, if they can realize that possibility, that potential, I think there might be a way that they can get it done.
So let me ask you this. Against Wilder, they had a draw. They fight a third time, which would be what, in August?
Well, that's the unofficial date at the moment, but I know from what I understand, there's a lot of negotiation and wiggle room there. Like, if Wilder needs more time to recover from his injuries or what have you, they could probably push it back a little bit.
Okay, so let's say Wilder wins that fight. Do we want to see a fourth? And is that the best? Is that the best thing for boxing, to have those guys potentially fight 4 straight times?
I don't know about straight, because like I said, there's Anthony Joshua sitting out there, and he's recognized as one of the champions as well. Although he didn't look too good in his last couple of fights, but he's a guy that certainly deserves to be in the conversation. I don't know if they would fight back to back or whatever. At some point, one of those guys is going to have to fight Anthony Joshua, but I guess it depends on how the next fight goes. If Wilder looks spectacular, if he knocks out Tyson Fury in 5 or 6 rounds, and knocks him, puts him on the canvas, then maybe the appetite, maybe the desire is there for a fourth fight. But there's some other guys out there, I think, like I mentioned Joshua in particular, that probably deserve a big money fight as well.
I said this earlier, Dave, and I want your opinion, that the popularity of the UFC, now some boxing people would say that has hurt the sport, but I would look at it a little bit differently. I would argue that there's a lot of casual fans of UFC. They do a good job of keeping it right in front of you, right? So that has brought a light to combat sports in general, and I would say that boxing has missed an opportunity and missed the boat here to use the UFC's popularity and growth as a sport to bring boxing back. Would you agree with that? And have they failed in that sense?
Yeah, you're probably right to a point there, Ryan. I do think boxing probably took the wrong attitude when it comes to mixed martial arts, trying to downplay it, trying to ignore it rather than working with them. I've always been of the opinion that I don't see any reason why you can't be a fan of both.
Right.
It's almost like baseball and football, really. I mean, they're both combative sports, but they're two totally separate entities. And I'm a fan of both of them. I grew up as a boxing person, but I've grown to appreciate and enjoy and cover while I'm covering MMA events. And I think boxing probably missed the boat. I think it would behoove them to maybe take a page out of the UFC and do more from the promotional side, social media. There's Dana White is as good as it gets when it comes to pumping up UFC guys, and maybe there's a guy out there for boxing that they could do some similar things to make that sport more popular again.
Well, and Dave, you just mentioned it. By the way, we're talking with Hall of Fame boxing writer Dave Weinberg. You can read his columns on our website, 973ESPN.com. You just mentioned it, though. Dana White, the one promoter for that sport. He is recognized by everyone who is an MMA fan. Boxing doesn't have one guy that could step into a video platform and promote something and have anybody know who that is.
Well, I don't know about that. I mean, I think people probably know who Don King is, who Bob Arum is. Maybe
Don
they don't.
Is he still around?
Promoting fights?
Yeah, that's true.
Is that the answer?
He is. He doesn't do much, but he's getting up there in years, and Bob Arum is as well. But yeah, you're probably right. There isn't the face of the sport, if you will, the one guy that can really.
Saturday afternoon, Dave, Dana White is on his Twitter account, and he's on there going, all right, we got the main card coming up on Plus, and we got this one, and this fight here. We wanted to put this to the – I mean, he is promoting the card on video platforms, on his social media, that is just lapping what they did, for boxing. Now, boxing did a great job this weekend. It was everywhere because it's on the ESPN Plus, and ESPN obviously – much like they do with the UFC, put that up on that platform. But when you get these fights on DAZN and some of that stuff, it makes it difficult.
Yeah, it does. You kind of lose interest. A lot of people lose interest. When it's like streaming on different platforms, people get confused as to where it is. I think it really hurt when HBO kind of decided to drop out of the boxing business because they were as good as it gets when it comes to promoting events and putting money and their weight behind something. And now you have like Showtime, ESPN, Fox, various streaming services, like you said, the Zone and those people. And yeah, there isn't that one. And you're right. You're definitely right there. I mean, Dana White is the guy who drives the UFC. Boxing just doesn't have that one guy that can really draw people into it.
Dave Weinberg, of course, check him out, 97.3ESPN.com.
I'll volunteer if they want.
There you go.
What's there is a card coming to AC soon, right? It's March 7th?
Yeah, March 7th. Yep, March 7th at Bally's.
All right. Well, maybe that could be the jump starter to get something going. We'll see. I know you've written about it. Check out more from Dave at 97.3ESPN.com. And Saturday mornings on the Pete Thompson Show, I enjoyed your conversation about the Asterix this weekend.
Oh, thanks. I appreciate it.
Take care, Dave.
All right. Thanks, guys. I appreciate you having me.
Yeah, man.
Thanks,
Dave
Dave.
Weinberg, like all guests, appeared via the Boardwalk Honda hotline. You can read Dave's columns, The Extra Points, on our website, 97.3ESPN.com.